If you're thinking of moving to Norman, Oklahoma, or you're just curious as to what the area is like, then you're gonna wanna watch this video. I'm gonna answer 5 questions that people always ask me about Norman, Oklahoma. Norman, Oklahoma is Oklahoma's 3rd largest city. That means that people move here a lot from other states and even other countries. Norman's main draw is that it's the home of the University of Oklahoma, which is a major research university. Okay, side note, but they are installing solar panels on my house today. And so when you hear the noise, that's what it is. It's the construction noise. My house isn't gonna fall down around me, I hope. So that's what we're doing. I get questions a lot about campus, particularly how busy it is, especially if that's not where you're gonna be working or where your life, kind of revolves around in Norman. So is there traffic on the University of Oklahoma? Yes, there is more traffic typically around the university than other parts of Norman, although that's been changing a lot lately. So the university is located really concentrated between Boyd and Lindsay, and then it extends further onto Highway 9 because that's where a lot of the research stuff is. So the area around main campus where undergrads are, which is between Boyd and Lindsay, because the dorms are actually just south of Lindsay Street, and then all of the class buildings, most of them, are between Boyd and Lindsay. So that's where you get a lot of pedestrian traffic. And so driving there, it takes a little bit longer than other places. So is this traffic comparable to LA traffic or Atlanta traffic? Absolutely not. It is not that bad. So the busiest days in town are gonna be football game days. Now, you have to keep in mind that this is only 7 days a year. We only have football games in town. I think it's 7 days. I may be wrong. So if I'm off one, don't roast me in the comments. I'm not a football fan. The thing is, when football games are gonna happen because they literally post the schedule. So those aren't gonna come as a surprise to you. Right. So when you're really gonna notice traffic changes in Norman is in August, when the students arrive back on campus, because we're not really a summer university, so people don't stay here a lot during the summer. So then in May, you're gonna feel like you can breathe again and there's not as many cars on the road, and that's because everyone left town. I get this question a lot about weather. How scared should I be about tornadoes in Norman? So questions about weather are super common for Oklahoma. Thank you for asking them. Really appreciate that. I do have a weather video. I'm gonna link it here for you. So as you may or may not know, Moore is located just north of Norman, and a lot of people will steer clear of Moore because of the tornadoes that Moore has seen in the past few decades, when in reality, Oklahoma City gets more tornadoes than Moore does. So just keep that in mind. I do understand though the fear in Norman. It can be scary. If you've never experienced that kind of weather before, it can be really scary. Know this, tornadoes do not sneak up on us. We usually know 24 to 48 hours in advance if the meteorologists are concerned about tornadoes on any given day. So they'll just kind of warn you. I also, I have a weather app downloaded on my phone. I look at clouds constantly, and once you start looking at them enough and watching the local weather enough, you can understand what these clouds are gonna look like that drop funnels out of the sky. We also have tornado sirens, and they sound like this. And yes, I have slept through those before because sometimes we get warnings at night. When those sirens go off, you usually have about 20 minutes to get to shelter. A lot of people never go to shelter though when those sirens go off because they go off in the entire town, not just where the tornado is hitting. Also know that tornadoes are most common between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. in the afternoon, and usually you're not sleeping. This is just something to be aware of. Take the precautions that you need in order to feel safe emotionally, physically, everything like that. Tornado shelters are a thing. Not every single house has one, but there are many different types that you could look into, or of course, buying a house with a tornado shelter. If this is any comfort to you, you are statistically more likely to die in a shark attack than in a tornado. I get questions a lot for Norman about diversity. So we've talked at length about Norman being a university town, and with that we do have around 1,500 international students enrolled at any given time. That number does not include exchange students or professors or staff or faculty or their families that come to Norman because of the jobs that the University of Oklahoma offers. So other things that Norman itself has done to embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion include being the first city in Oklahoma to pass comprehensive non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ residents. Norman's first international festival was also held in October of 2022. And then at the public school level, the Norman Public Schools have Diversity Enrichment Council, and they've been working diligently since 2016 to create spaces for these conversations in our public school system. I get a lot of questions too about job opportunities in Norman. So Norman being the third largest city, I think there's a lot of job opportunity, and we're gonna go over the 7 largest companies in Norman. I also have a video that covers that as well if you wanna watch it. It's really hard to envision yourself in a town that you may not have visited before. So Norman being the third largest city in Oklahoma, we have 125,000 residents. And there are some companies that have a really big presence here. So this is the list. And these are just workplaces in Norman. We, of course, are a really short drive up I-35 into Oklahoma City, which has a ton of job opportunities as well. And here I want to talk about internet. I get a lot of questions about the internet. How good is the internet in Norman, Oklahoma? Well, whenever I first started in real estate, it was pretty bad. Like, we didn't have great internet access, especially if you were living on the east side of town or south of Highway 9. So since then, a local company, OEC, has installed fiber in most of the places, and almost, I think in all of the places, plus more, that were having internet access issues. So that issue is gone away. So the internet issue, you really don't have to worry about if you're living in Norman proper, meaning that you have a Norman address, because most likely you're gonna get OEC fiber, if not another kind of fiber. So if you haven't been on my channel before, my name is Marcie Billen. I am a real estate agent in Oklahoma, particularly Oklahoma City, and I do live in Norman. I have a free download about relocating to Norman if you need that information. And of course, if you're needing a realtor in Oklahoma, you can contact me. All of my contact information is in the description if you need some help. One question that I get a lot is about the housing market, because I'm a real estate agent, so that makes sense. So let's go over the housing market in Norman for just a minute. So to give you an idea, I started my real estate career in 2017. My average price point at that time was around $160,000 total for people to buy a house. Average price point. Now my average price point is around $230,000. I mostly work in Norman, but I do work in other places surrounding Norman, Oklahoma City, Yukon, Mustang, Choctaw, Edmond, etc. But that kind of gives you an idea of how much prices have increased since 2017. So moral of the story, Oklahoma City is growing a lot. Norman has been growing a lot. There's so much opportunity here that we did not have 20 years ago. I have several neighborhood videos that you can check out so you can see what these neighborhoods actually look like. And I'm gonna go ahead and link that playlist right here for you so that you have it. Okay, so a little history of Norman. So Norman became a city in the late 19th century, so the 1890s. Up until the First World War, like not very many people lived here, but we did have the university. So that's why we have some of those old, beautiful houses that I love so much. In the 40s, when the war ended, we had booms in several different areas, meaning that spec homes were built to give people homes that they otherwise, wouldn't be able to find anywhere else. So it was just capitalizing on opportunity of people coming home from the war and starting their lives over again. So in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, Norman really took off. So we're gonna find lots of houses, especially for the 60s and 70s, that were built in Norman in that time period. The 1980s were a little bit tumultuous for Norman, as it was for a lot of the country, but we do have several neighborhoods that popped up during this time. And then there were lots and lots of homes built in the 1990s and early 2000s up until the Great Recession that we have in Norman. And they all look different. Like all these neighborhoods look very different. So it all depends on what you want and where you want to live, the location, how many trees you want, what do you want the streets to look like, how many parks, etc. When the Great Recession hit, building houses kind of ground to a halt. A lot of builders went out of business. People weren't buying houses because they couldn't, everything it was not a great time. And we're still recovering from that. And so we're trying to catch up on the houses that weren't built during the 2010s, and now people are really needing them because they're moving to Norman, or people are moving up or into different houses, or people are growing up. So for more information about Norman, Oklahoma, don't forget to check out the description. I have some more info down there, and you should definitely watch this video next.